Good morning. We'd like to welcome you to another edition of the Sunday School Review. This week's lesson is entitled Love Never Fails, and is taken from 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter. And I know some of you are familiar with this chapter. It's sometimes referred to as the love chapter. Now, we want to put this particular chapter in its original context. Now, if we know the chapter just before this, that is the 12th chapter of 1 Corinthians, is talking about spiritual gifts. And we know that the chapter after this chapter, that is the 14th chapter, is also talking about spiritual gifts. So now, to put this chapter in its proper context, let's look at the last verse in the 12th chapter of Corinthians. That is the 31st verse of the 12th chapter of this book. And it says, in the last clause of that verse says, "Let me show you a more excellent way, and that way is the way of love." And that's where Paul began. After talking about spiritual gifts in the 12th chapter and spiritual gifts in the 14th chapter, that's where he begins in the 13th chapter to talk about the secret sauce, that is love. Now, in verse 1 of the 13th chapter, it says, "Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity." Now, for that word charity, we're going to substitute the word love. "And have not love, I am become as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal." Verse 2, "And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountain and have not love, I am nothing." Now, as I said, love is the secret sauce. In other words, this particular chapter is tying chapter 12 and chapter 14 together. It is telling us, and mainly Paul is talking to the Corinthians here, but this is also for the church as well, is telling us how to function in spiritual gifts. And it all has to do with love. Now, yes, you can take chapter 13 and teach from that exclusive of 14 and 12. Yes, you can do that. But I just want to tie those two in and show you the context that chapter 13 arose out of. Now, so the motive for operating in the spiritual gifts should be love. And that's what we're going to be exploring in chapter 13. And when we go back, we already read verses 1 and 2. Now, verse 1, when it's talking about the ability to speak in the terms of men and of angels, this is talking about the spiritual gifts that are talked about in chapter 12 and chapter 14. This is what it's talking about, the spiritual gift. And in other words, if you are operating in the spiritual gift and not showing love. Okay, now it says in verse 2, the latter part, if you have all these things, you do all of this, have all, understand all prophecy, all mysteries, all knowledge, and have all faith, and have not love, it does not profit anything. As verse 1 says, you're just making a noise. It's meaningless. In other words, it does not add value. If there is no love in there, if you're not operating in the heart of love, it does not add any value whatsoever. And you say, well, why? Why is it the case that if this secret sauce, that is love, is not mixed in, it does not add value? Because the purpose of these spiritual gifts are not to be put on display, to show, well, yes, I have this spiritual gift and you don't. That's not the purpose. The purpose of the spiritual gifts are for the edification of the body. That is its purpose. So if you just putting them on display, saying I can do this and you can't, you're not fulfilling the purpose in which the gifts were meant to fulfill, plain and simple. So that's why it does not add value. That's why it's worthless. That's why it's meaningless, because you're not serving the intended purpose of the gift. The intended purpose of the gift is not self-serving, but is for the entire body, for the building up or the edification of the entire body, not for self-serving reasons only. Now, let's go on a little further in verse 3. And it deals with when sacrificing. Verse 3. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, I give my body to be burned, in other words, self-sacrifice, and have not love, it profit me nothing. Here Paul is taking the extremes. You can give your body to be burned, self-sacrifice, give all that you have to help the poor. But if love is not the motivating factor, it's all meaningless. It does not add value. And Paul is reminding these individuals, the Corinthians, that is, you can't be so fixated on the spiritual gift that you forget about people, because that's not the purpose of the spiritual gift. Love is what adds value. If love is not involved in it, it does not add any value whatsoever. So that is why it's worthless if love is not in it. In other words, love is the secret sauce. Now, let's go on to verse 4. And it talks about love acts. What it does. Love suffers long and is kind. In other words, love is patient. Impatient, that's not love. Love is kind. Unkindness is not love. Love is patient and love is kind. Charity or love envies not. It's not jealous. It's not envious of others. That's not love. Love vaunts not itself, is not puffed up, is not proud or boastful. That's not love. Does not behave itself unseemly. Verse 5. It's not rude. Does not behave itself unseemly. Love is not rude. Seek is not her own. Is not selfish. Love is not selfish. Now, this type of love, we're going to talk about love a little bit later, but the type of love that Paul is encouraging the saints to have is clearly not self-serving, is not selfish. Rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoice in the truth. Verse 6. It's not easy for folk think it's no evil. I missed that. But verse 6, rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Love don't keep score of your wrong. Love, this type of love don't keep score of any wrongdoings. Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Verse 7. Now, in other words, this love does not give up. Now, we have one word that we use for love, all kinds of love. But in the Greek, there are three main words that they use for love. The first one is eros. That is the type of love between the sexes, the love that you have for your spouse, eros. That's where we get the word erotic from. And the second type of love is phileo, and that's a brotherly love. As a matter of fact, Philadelphia is called the city of brotherly love. Now, the highest form of love is the agape love. That is unconditional love. Now, the first two, that is eros and phileo, is love conditional type of love. I think it was Janet Jackson back a few years ago made a song, What Have You Done For Me Lately? Yeah, you used to do nice things, but what have you done for me lately? Now that's type of love, eros or phileo, and back verse 7 is bears all things, believeth all things, endures all things. In other words, agape love never give up. But eros and phileo, well, that's the last straw. I'm done with them. I'm out with them. Well, what about your buddy? No, we had a falling out. But agape love is love unconditional. There is no amount of wrong or sin that you can do to stop God or cause God to stop loving you. The agape love can never be voided, can never be foiled. No matter, as a matter of fact, when we was nothing, he loved us. So eros, phileo is conditional love. Yeah, what have you done for me lately? But agape love is love unconditional, does not give up, as we're going to see when we go on with the lesson here. And verse 8, love never fails. But whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. So we see prophecies, tongues, all these things shall vanish away. We know that. But when? We're going to read here. And we go to verse 9, for we know in part, we prophesy in part. But when? When they're going to go away? When that which is perfect is come, that which is in part shall be done away with. So, and some people say, well, yeah, prophecy has been done away with, and tongues and things of that sort. Yes, there will come a day, but not yet. It said when, and when that is perfect is come. In other words, we are not going to dwell with that much, but the perfect is not yet come. Therefore, these things have not been done away with yet. But yes, there will come a time, And that time is when that which is perfect is come, but that which is perfect has not came yet. Okay. So now let's go, verse 12. For we now see through a glass darkly or dimly, but then face to face, now I know in part, but then shall I know, even also I am known. Now, so let's go to our last verse. Now abideth faith, hope, love. These three, but the greatest of these is love. Now, we see faith, we see hope. When we can have faith in something that we have not seen yet, but when we realize that, we no longer need faith. And hope, the same thing. When I was a kid, well, I could say, well, I hope I get a bike for Christmas. I did get a bike. I didn't get it for Christmas, though. But if I say, I hope I get a bike for Christmas, and I wake up one Christmas morning and see a bike under the tree with a bow on it, I'm not going to stand around and say, oh, I hope I get a bike for Christmas. I have received it. I've realized it. So I no longer have to hope for that. But we see charity will forever remain after faith and hope has ceased. Charity will go with us into eternity. So God's love for us will never be extinguished, will never be voided, will never be foiled. And God's love for us is an unconditional love. We don't merit it. We don't deserve it. It's not selfish. Whereas eros, filio, that type of love is self-serving. You love me, I love you. You're my friend, I'm your friend. But God loves us in spite of all of the wrong that we have done. He still loves us, and he will continue to love us because his love for us is unconditional, is without merit. And we should have that type of love for one another. That is that unconditional love that is not self-serving, not selfish, but unconditional. We like to thank you for watching today. Join in next week for another edition of the Sunday School Review. Thank you.